So, more good stuff about my father. So, I can't really give him credit for all of some of these things that he had done because there's always a catch for a lot of them. Like my first computer had a catch to it. A lot of things have a catch, and without that context that these things can be taken away, it's not that great. But he spent a lot of money when I was in high school. When I my graduation gift, he said if I graduated high school, I would get a laptop. I did. What happened to that laptop? I was staying in the shelter. The shelter would not allow me to stay there anymore due to a hospital visit and paperwork issues. So I stayed with a friend. While I was asleep, a friend of that friend came in, grabbed stuff, and left. I made a police report out with two other people that had money and jewelry missing, but I never got it returned, even though I had to see it in somebody else's hand. But this was a 260-pound ex-boxer that literally had arms as big as my body, and he was already selling it to other gang members, so it already switched three hands, and the police could care less that it was mine or who did it. As a homeless person, they just take the affidavit and the report, but they never investigate it. They don't waste time on us. So I never got that back. Once again, why am I in that situation? Partly my own choices. My father was selling the house from underneath my feet. My mother just died. I tried to process it with a girl, but my father was acting inappropriate, acting totally. I mean, the girl thought he was racist and decided she wanted to leave because she felt unsafe with my father being so aggressive, talking, and even when we went for a walk, she was scared. So she wasn't spending the night. She didn't want to hang out. No, that she cut it early. She begged for a ride home. So that wasn't working. Now, I was trying to use marijuana to kind of calm the nerves, but it wasn't doing that good a job. Ativan would have been better, but I didn't have any, and there was so many other drugs that I was on that were fucking around with me, like Thorazine, Seroquel, meds like that, antipsychotics, and stuff that does not help any of my actual disabilities. Now, I'm asking for the doctor just to sleep. I'm not mentioning any of my mother's bullshit, but yet, thanks to my mother documenting all bullshit, all these lies my mother made up, when I ask for sleeping meds, instead of getting melatonin or Valium, I get Seroquel, Trazodone, and Thorazine all at the same time mixed together. We're talking 600 to 800 milligrams of Seroquel. We're talking 200 milligrams of Trazodone. And we're talking 150 milligrams of Thorazine. Now, the Thorazine milligram might have been more because I think they went up, but the rest I know for a fact. I went from 300 milligrams of Seroquel to 600 to 800. Then, once when I got the 600, I started to feel side effects that were so dangerous. My heart was palpitating. I would get super hungry, but then I would feel like a sinking fear would sink into me. In the mornings, I would wake up with spins and severe migraines. In the middle of the night, if I tried to use the bathroom, I'd fall down. Just terrible stuff. And when I report these things to my mother or father or anybody, they just go up on the medication and add more medications. So I'm all fucked up there. But I know certain meds help. Like at this point, I've tried a little bit of opiates, codeine, a little cough medicine here and there. Actually, I used a lot of cough medicine in my teenage years. There was a little tiny mini treasure chest, maybe 10-inch by 6-inch, really small. And I kept all the packaging. It was about maybe 10 packaging within a 6 month period. And there's three levels of packaging. There's the cardboard, there's the clamshell, and then there's the bottle to hold the dextromorphin gel tablets. And that's all they were, pure dextromorphin, nothing else in them. I used to get the Robitussin pills. Occasionally, I tried a cortisone cough and cold because it's supposed to be safer for the heart, and somebody suggested it. But my go-to was Robitussin gel capsules with only dextromorphin, 15 milligrams, when I was 16, 15 years old. Now, I've stopped using cough medicine because it's embarrassing and I don't like it anymore. I'm now 19 years old. Cough medicine is out of the picture. Yes, I still experimented with it, but it's not my drug of choice. It helps with some of my disabilities, but then it doesn't help at the same time. It's not a good replacement for actual medical care. And I've asked for actual medical care at this point, at the age of 19, for, oh, oh, sorry, my inside just hurt me for a second. For age 5 to 19. So my mother gave me an overdose at age 7, and at age 7, I started speaking up, asking for proper medical care, which at that time my mother said it's not important, don't worry about it, he doesn't need it, he doesn't need it. Then she brought me to Texas. I brought this up to the doctors in Texas. They were concerned, they wanted to help me, but my mother said it's just an allergy, don't pay any attention, he doesn't need any care. Nope, nope, nope. Let's talk about the psych stuff. Let's get him some psych meds. No, I don't want to hear about that. No, no, no. Come on, well, let's change the subject already, my mother would say. Then I got put in New Mexico and there was no medical care for 18 months. Not even when I got food poisoning, not even when I slipped and almost fell off a cliff. No medical care, never got looked at. Not even when a black person was choking me till I turned blue and did this to many other kids. I wasn't the worst of it. There was a heavyset kid that was so heavy that when his arms went around his neck, he really, really suffocated because he suffocated right from the beginning, and they would hold his throat for like 5 minutes. So this kid would pass out, and then they would drop him, and he'd be passed out on the ground. A couple of the females were very concerned about this behavior in this guy, Toby. Anyway, so I go there, I get abused, no medical care. Then we go to Maine. I fall to the ground from noise and lights. I scream in pain. Still no medical care. My mother still makes up illness. Oh, he's autistic. I think he's autistic. That's what it is. That's what it is. With no doctors, no description from the patient. She's not asking me. I just said my ears hurt. I'm in pain and I couldn't stand up, obviously, because I fell to the ground. So my nervous system and my legs aren't working during this happening. There's a pain going in my ears, down my neck and back. And on top of this, I'm screaming because the pain is so severe, closing my eyes and looking at the ground. Once again, my mother doesn't talk or bring this up again. So, yes, this was not a good time for me when my mother passed away while taking pills, and then she's in the hospital with liver failure. She comes home and drinks in front of me as her liver is only at 20%, and then she has to go back to the hospital. And then she passes away. Now my father gets into another relationship, my mother's best friend. Her husband died. His wife just died. And now, not even 30 days after my mother's funeral, he's dating, he's talking, he's looking, I don't think I would give him 6 weeks. I would say 6 weeks. Within 6 weeks, he's seeing somebody else. Maybe not married, but that marriage, I would say within no, less than that. Within 3 months to 6 months of my mother's death, my father had already remarried, but yet he did not seem willing to talk about her. So he wasn't done mourning, but he's already replaced him because he's lonely. My father's lonely. He doesn't want to deal with his second wife's issues. He doesn't want to think about the bad things she did to me. He wants to just move on because it's easy for him to move on. So anyways, I'm having to adjust to all this stuff, as well as I'm still not receiving medical care. And now my father is taking my inheritance, giving away all my mother's belongings, and making sure to throw me to the street. He's selling the house. I asked, well, if you're selling the house, where am I going to go? You burnt and crashed my Social Security. Yeah, you did that, Dad, not me. Yes, you. You canceled the lawyer. You stole money. You reappropriated funds to your own bank account and used it for a house I was not living in. The house that you're now selling. So you used my Social Security to pay off a mortgage while I get made fun of at a program because I'm wearing rags for clothing. Meanwhile, I don't know what the hell is going on. I have no idea I'm supposed to be getting clothing every month. I had no idea I had a monthly clothing allowance. Not until 19 when it ended. So my father made a mistake and he made some agreements. They never came through. So knowing all this, I stole some medication that was illegal in the house. His new girlfriend, his new soon-to-be wife, brought dead people's medications into the house, people that are no longer alive or exist. She brings controlled substances, that's Xanax, Perk 30s. Yes, she brings in a whole strip, a pop-out pack, about, I think it was 30, maybe 90 Perk 30s. She brings a whole glass bottle with, I don't even know where she got this shit, because it was in a very, very top-end glass prescription bottle, also with her dead person's name on it. These people are no longer alive. And yet she's holding on to these medications, taking it out of her house in Pennsylvania and moving it into the house that I helped pay for, that I was made disabled for. Yes, if I wasn't made disabled, if I wasn't made so sick, my father would have a really tough time getting me Social Security. But thanks to me missing 4 years of education, thanks to all the druggings and abuse, it was very easy. My father probably didn't even need an attorney. One look at me, bones, weighing 60 pounds at the age of 13, not able to eat food, taking 8 medications, getting sick all the time, not able to walk, bumping on the stuff, talking funny, having a weird voice, moving funny, can't play sports during 9 months a year, and then all of a sudden during summer, I'm the best wiffle ball player, I'm the best baseball player, I'm all of a sudden, I'm all of a sudden Babe Ruth during summer, and then all of a sudden I can't throw a baseball during winter, and everybody's like, what the fuck, this kid has something wrong with him. But nobody knows what's really wrong with me, because my mother just says, don't pay any attention, don't listen to my son. Yeah, just listen to me. Listen to me, my mother says. Listen to the person who is popping her son's Vicodin. Yes, my mother popped Vicodin that was prescribed to me so that. Oh, sorry. Why was I prescribed Vicodin? Because I was having severe side effects from other medications and I was brought to the emergency room. And the emergency room gave me a prescription of Vicodin in case these severe migraines came back. Now, I did not take them when I had headaches in the morning. Yes, I had migraines every morning, but you can't take Vicodin every morning, so I was only allowed to take it as a PRN, what is understandable. My mother says she's putting it in her closet because she doesn't want me, taking them without permission. Okay, if I need them, that's fine. Then I find out my mother is taking them. Then I catch her red-handed with her hand in the cookie jar, and I have to get my father involved. So I get my father involved. Yes, she did take my pills. Yes, she admitted to taking my pills because she got caught red-handed and she couldn't lie this time. My father asked her why you're taking your son's pills. And she says, it was only one time, but why is Zach watching me? Why is Zach complaining to you? This is wrong. Let's punish Zach for telling you. And I get punished. So my father was never good at handling his wives, but I got thrown out because I stole illegal medication from that closet where, by the way, all my mother's stuff was in this closet and being given away to everybody. I mean, it was like a yard sale. My father was just giving it all away without even letting me look through it. He let me look through the costume jewelry and that's it. None of the good stuff. I wasn't allowed the good stuff. No. He was going to give that to his wife. Yes, his new wife, who bringing in illegal drugs. That wife, the one who would not even have a conversation about any of these issues that we have gone through for the last 15 years prior to this. But my father wants to move on. He doesn't want to handle this. No. So, while I was out homeless, living like that, I had no opportunities. I had no mailing address, so there was no way for me to reapply for Social Security. but I worked for about 4 years to try to build up a system which I could apply for my Social Security while disabled, while living in the woods. Because apparently the shelters will not allow you to use their address for Social Security or food stamps because they get thousands of people a year. And if they did that, it would clog up the system and people could use it for fraud. At least that's what they told me at a bunch of shelters. So you cannot get government approved mail like apply for Social Security using the shelter's address. They need a real address apparently. So I called my father, asked him if I could send the Social Security mail to some place, like does he have any family members or friend in Massachusetts? And he told me, nope, sorry, bye bye. Hung up right on me. So I got nowhere with well, that was actually his wife that answered the phone, but I asked her to ask him, and then they just gave me a wide no. So at that point, I had to use my friend's address that was getting evicted, but I did not know he was getting evicted. So BBP Realty illegally held my mail, so that Social Security mail never went to me. So they closed out my case, even though I finally, I went to their specialist doctor, and that wasn't even the best specialist doctor. I still didn't reflect enough on my disabilities to even know what to call them. At the age of 21, I did not know what to call my disabilities. At the age of 20, and that was about the first application. Now that I've got a picture of what was going on, I want to give you some of what my father did. While I was living in the woods and bouncing from couch to couch and staying with one friend for about a year or so, I had one mailing address friend where I stayed, but I would move around quite a bit. One mailing address where all my stuff was kept, but I did have to couch surf because people don't always, like somebody might go, have sex with me. And then if you say no, well, if you don't suck my dick, I want you out of my house. I get that a lot. There was a African American that asked me to suck his dick, and I said no. And so he threw me out of his house, and I left. He said, I want you to leave that. I said, okay, fuck you. And I left. And then he cried and said, no, 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 you're the only good roommate I've ever had. Come back, come back. For about a year, he asked me to come back and move in with him. No, I now know that you're homosexual, and you are active. You are active. You are only about 37 years old. And if you got that mad, if you're willing to throw somebody out of your house because they won't suck your dick, I don't want to be with you. I don't even want to know you. So bye-bye, Tyler, or whatever it started with T. Some people called him T. He was just a pothead that got out of prison for stabbing somebody in France. He was born in France. He came to America as a child. He had all this paperwork showing that he was born in France. He went to prison for stabbing somebody. That's not really a good record right there. And now he wants, nope. And then there was another person that tried that bullshit too. So a lot of times you gotta move. You gotta take your shit and move. Now, if you don't put up with these assholes, these crazy ass assholes, the alternative is that you live in the woods. Now, everybody else might be saying, move into the shelter. Well, thanks to my mother's and father's choices, that will never be a possibility until we get my disabilities actually looked into and we stop, feeding into my dead mother's fantasies. But so far, that's all I can do is get drugs for a dead woman's fantasies. I'm not able to get any neurological diagnosis. They're not able to look at me. I'm not able to get the insurance to pay for anything related to this. Why? Because as far as my mother and father has said, this doesn't exist. Don't pay attention to it. Don't talk about it. You just keep on falling. Just keep on having seizures and then just get up and go to work. Yeah. Okay, you're all bloody. You have a fractured skull. You just had a seizure. You can't form words and you can't walk. Well, you should just go to work tomorrow then. Yeah, that's my father and my mother for you. Just trying to say that people who literally need a wheelchair should just work harder. Oh, yeah, think of it this way. My father is a great person, but not when it comes to me or his wives. When it comes to me, he is willing to neglect me to the point of death. Even when I was a child, he was willing to neglect me and let his wife give me a handful of medications Then she mixes them up, and I experience an overdose. And she's on the phone with medical professionals. I'm panicked and my breathing is stopping. I'm on a pile of newspaper about to go unconscious, and I was supposed to watch a movie. This is a really bad situation. You see me panicking, not able to move, my arm's not working, my eyesight went out. My mother's calling some doctor's office. They're telling her to bring me to an emergency room. But my mother told my father they don't know what they're talking about. These nurses and these doctors don't know what they're talking about, and leave me to die on a pile of newspapers. Now, if my father was a little more concerned about this situation, I just took pills. My mother just brought me someplace to take pills. Now those pills are kicking in, and now there's some reaction happening. If he was less neglectful, he might have a conversation with his wife and say, what is going on here? What the hell is going on? Why is Zach at my feet on a pile of newspapers passed out all of a sudden right after you give him medication? Why couldn't he talk all of a sudden? Why did it look like his eyesight went out? Why did he fall back on his ass when trying to stand up? I know that just yesterday, Zach was walking around here normal. He could see out of his eyeballs. He could feel the carpet. Now, all of a sudden, he looks weird. He's passed out. His breathing is shallow. What is going on? And then his wife would have to go, well, I think I might have slipped him an accident medication or something. What? Oh no, we better bring him to the emergency room. But see, my father, just let me sleep there. Let him sleep it off. Oh, my wife gave him a bunch of pills, and he seems like something really bad is going on. He'll just sleep it off. He's 5. He'll grow out of it. Well, no, you don't. If you slip somebody pills like a Perk 30 and they stop breathing and less blood goes to their brain, it could cause sudden death. There's a lot of things that can happen if you give a child the wrong pill. That's why my brother and his wife, who are very good people, when they lost a pill on the floor, they brought their kid to the emergency room. They didn't even know if their kid had one pill. They didn't even know if they took one muscle relaxer from the floor. But they wanted to check at the emergency room anyways. But my mother, she gives me 6 pills, watches an overdose, and leaves me there to die. Then, shortly after this overdose, or before it, about the same year, my mother decides that it's okay to poison me with extra Ipecac, a whole bottle of Ipecac. Then she decides to give me extra medication during my adoption as well. This is during the day, too. She gives me some pills, tells me to take it, and I got to do whatever she says. If I don't do what she says, oh boy, will she give it to me. So anyways, my father is a good person, but from these stories I tell, you got to remember, he was neglectful and he's easily whipped by his wives. Yes, they can drink in front of him with liver failure and he will go back down in the corner like a puppy dog with his tail between his legs while his wife pours a martini. He knows it's wrong to let his wife pour a martini when her liver is at 20%. But he doesn't know how to talk up to them. He doesn't know how to grab that martini, smash it on the floor, and tell your wife, no, you don't. I swear to God, if I see that in your hand, I will break every bottle in that sink. You have 20% of your liver working. Your eyes have a slight yellow tint to them. You're in the emergency room all month with your liver failing. They told you could come home for one day to say hi and love from your family. And you go straight to the liquor cabinet and blow past your son? No, I will smash every bottle in this house and that sink if I have to. That is the appropriate response to your wife dying and trying to drink booze as she dies. That is appropriate. But instead, my father went to the kitchen, put the tail between the legs, and I had to tell my father, hey, this is wrong. It's not my place to do this, but it is your place to do this, so please do it. And he did not do it correctly. He just whispered in her ear, please stop drinking. That doesn't work with an addict. I mean, show some love to the woman. I mean, there's long-term love. Smashing her drink in the sink is love. Her liver is failing from alcohol and pills. You've heard me talk about it for years. If you talk to a doctor about it, he could have helped earlier. So my mother whipped my father, brain whipped him, gave him so many stories. Oh, this is just attachment disorder. Oh, I'm not an alcoholic. I just drink a little too much. Oh, I can drink. I don't care if my liver's failing. It's okay. Then she passes away and dies of liver failure, and we never get to see her again. I wonder what would have happened if she never drank and if we actually told the doctors what she was like. If I was allowed to see my dying mother, I wonder what her end really would have been like. Maybe she would have got 2 extra years because she almost did get a liver transplant too. That's another problem I feel a little bad about. I wonder if the doctors knew and they prevented that liver from going to her, or if they said something to the EMTs in the ambulance, because those EMTs, they're not good people. A lot of them will fuck with you and hurt you badly. I've seen this myself. I have had EMTs stab me for no reason other than I'm a kid who's all riled up that's literally on weed. Yes, I got put in an ambulance for marijuana, and a EMT held a needle, one of those big ones, like a dagger, and then put it through my arm, not drawing blood, just was mad at me. And he goes, "Oh yeah?" I said, I want your name. I'm going to report you," because he was using inappropriate language with a kid. I'm going to say, I'm only 15 years old. I'm going to report you for that language. And he said, "Oh yeah?" And he stabbed me in the arm so hard that the blood was actually squirting on the top of the ambulance. It actually was squirting all over the ambulance. It was like a squirt gun coming out of the upper arm, upper muscle. And that wasn't, he stabbed right through the muscle. He went right through it. He stabbed me like he was trying to cause damage and hurt somebody. This was a adult that wanted to hurt a child because that child said he was going to report him for inappropriate language. This is very common in society. So when my mother was drinking on liver failure, she had to go back to the emergency room that following morning with liver failure. So I'm sure they did some liver panels. I'm sure they did some blood work, and they could see a small increase of alcohol levels in her blood. Now, she's on a liver transplant list, and because she's a nurse, she's getting kicked to the top. But my father, her husband, is lying about her alcohol use and her pill usage, what I'm sure the emergency room and the doctors have figured out by letting her go home for a day. So there might have been more behind the scenes than my father knows, because I don't think my father understands any of this medical stuff, how it works. I barely understand it. I've spent 25 years trying to understand the crazy shit my mother was doing. Like when she told me playing with action figures means you're schizophrenic. That's bull. If you go to the store and you buy 2 action figures and you play with them on your carpet, that does not make you schizophrenic. That makes you a normal kid. But my mother was trying to twist my brain. Like, for instance, I jumped in a pool and caught the back of my foot on a fence. My mother was trying to convince me that was called self-harming. Not even kidding. I was bumping in this stuff my whole life. Still to this day, my wrists and my shins bump in the tables and doorknobs like crazy all the time. That's due to the neurological disorder. But when my mother and father called me in the living room asking why my shins are all beat up, I told them the truth about bumping in this stuff, and I figured this was normal at that point. And what did my mother say? She turned to my father and said, "No, it's self-harming. No, it's self-harming. No, it's self-harming." See, if my father had a better wife, then maybe my father would have been like, "Oh, that's not normal that my son is bumping in the stuff all the time." But thanks to my mother calling it self-harming and me saying, "No, it isn't. Yes, it is, Zach. No, it isn't. Yes, it is, Zach. No, it isn't, Mom. Just because I bumped into a table does not mean I'm self-harming. What the hell is wrong with you? Don't talk to me that way. I know you. You're self-harming by bumping in the tables. What the hell is fucking wrong with you? People don't do shit like that. That's not a thing. Cutting is a thing. Cutting. Thanks to your psychotic rants, I even tried cutting while I was goth. Yes, I was a emo, rainbow and skulls and black. That was my style through high school. And at about the age of 16, around there, 15, 16, after hearing my mother call me a self-harmer all the way back in Westford, at 8 years old, I sucked my skin and my mother's calling it self-harming. So I've heard this my entire life. I decide maybe I'll try it out because everybody's telling me goths cut. It didn't do anything for me because I don't really have nerves the same way. So it was easy for me to do, but it didn't do anything for me. It just made me embarrassed because people wanted to question me and talk about it. So I didn't like that. The only time that cutting ever helped me was when I had frostbite and I was about to lose all my toes. I went to the emergency room 3 times. The third time they told me if I came back they would have to remove my toes. So I just did some cutting, and then they asked me if I was suicidal, and I said, living outside in 0 degrees, I'll probably die tonight even if I don't cut. I'll be frozen by the end of the night and the shelter won't take me, or I would already have my feet all set. And then they never understand, well, why can't the shelter take you? Because you guys won't give me proper paperwork to get in there. If you guys inject me with Ativan, you don't give me the paperwork for it, you make me come back and do loop-de-loops. Not only that, my disabilities aren't established, so as soon as my disabilities get in the way, they throw my ass out until I can explain with doctor paperwork what I'll never get thanks to my mother and father. So now that you've heard the part 2 about my father, you got to understand that I love him very much because I think that he was just too dumb to see what was right in front of him. But he's also so smart that I can't believe that he is dumb. So that is my dilemma. My father is incredibly smart, but not when it came to me or his wife. He's willing to use things like that are totally normal and twist them up with me. He's willing to put blame on me where it doesn't belong. He's willing to go along with stories that don't make any sense. And then he's willing to add to a narrative that gets me hurt. But only because his wives want this. His wives are pushing for these things. So he's going along with it. He's there just going along with the wave like I did during childhood. I didn't have any say in my health care at age 7. I didn't have any say in my health care when I was in New Mexico. I didn't have any say in my health care. My mother did all the saying. And my father went for the ride. I went for the ride. I got more hurt, poisoned, whacked, beat, hurt, poisoned, whacked, ruler, beat, shoe, poison, hurt. Meanwhile, my father's going along with the ride. Believe a lie, turn his back, believe a lie, go along with it, believe a lie, move to Texas, believe a lie. Don't go to the doctor with my wife. Don't go to the doctor anymore with my wife. Go to the doctor. Oh, I don't like what I hear. Don't go to the doctor with my wife. Listen to my wife. Believe all my wife's fantasies. Believe all the mental illnesses. I don't understand any of this doctor stuff, so we'll just believe everything, but I'll put my name on whatever the hell psych records she wants to create. She wants to make up a mental illness like schizophrenia. Well, we'll try it, but if the doctors won't go along with it, we can't. So then she tries and tries and tries and tries. But after 15 years of trying, some of them move forward. Like, for instance, she was giving me uppers and downers. So during the day, I would be a little hyper. Then the Ritalin would calm me down a little. But then they would give me real heavy downers right after I come right back up. So the Ritalin levels me even. But then I start going back up, normal, because I'm always hyper. I got ADHD, I'm always hyper. But then she gives me heavy sedatives and downers. So then I go down and I'm tired and distressed. Well, then those wear off about maybe 4 or 5 o'clock, let's say about that. So I start coming up, getting hyper again. So then my mother gives me my meds early at 8 o'clock, dropping me back down. But then the meds wear off at 3 a.m., so I'm a hyper kid early. And then I go back to bed, and they don't want to hear me in the bed, or I crawl in the bed, or whatever. I'm too hyper for her, so she gives me a Benadryl or more pills. Then I'm tired, but then I get up in the morning, and once again, they give me more pills. At this point, it's the Ritalin, the Wellbutrin, whatever else they can come up with. My mother loved giving me pills. You could see this in her face when I was only 7 years old. But she was very destructive with the pills. Like, for instance, when I first got to my mother, before I was ever seen by any